AI is everywhere. We have voice assistants on our phones, AI-powered algorithms on social media, making it so you only see content you're interested in. It's everywhere. That's what makes today's conversation so fascinating. Where exactly is the intersection of artificial intelligence and video editing? As AI continues to advance at a rapid pace, it makes us question how it will redefine the role of a video editor in the future. And today we'll be joined by Andrew Francis and Ian Loudon, hearing their insights both as video editors navigating this intersection right here on Render Time. So I'm so excited. Today is not only a great topic, but this is also the very first episode of Render Time. I think it will be so interesting to hear from the creative point of views of B2B creators. Every episode on this podcast is hosted by a different creator, so we're going to be getting a completely unique perspective from both the host and the guests. Editors, videographers, graphic designers, and more will all be featured on Render Time, and they will be diving into cutting-edge trends and sharing behind-the-scenes insights into content creation in the business-to-business world. I am Carrie Goodison. I'm a video editor for MarketScale. Joining us today to explore this topic is Andrew Francis and Ian Loudon. So starting with Ian, tell us a little bit about what you do at MarketScale.
Yeah, I'm a digital media strategist at MarketScale. I'm also a video editor. First joined on the editing team, moved over with some hybrid work and client services, and really enjoying my time here and just exploring all the different technologies that we use.
And Andrew?
Yeah, I'm a video editor. I've been so for not even a year now. It's been interesting just navigating different clientele, different types of videos, different styles, and just seeing how different tools can just help us create different videos and ultimately create art.
So let's talk first specifically about some AI video editing tools and softwares that we've seen around, things that we've used in MarketScale. Which ones have you personally used?
I know personally for me, I use a lot of Adobe Enhance. So that's the audio enhancer through Adobe. I use that for dialogue enhancement and background removal, just to clear up the audio. And then when it comes to Photoshop, I use a lot of generative fill for just like thumbnails. And honestly, if I have a creative rut, I use it to just like, let's play around with this, see if this works. When it comes to AI, I just use it as a way to either enhance or to just get inspiration.
Some of the tools I've used, basically like Runway ML is an excellent up-and-coming startup that is going to make some waves in the industry. I believe Runway is also being incorporated into the Premiere generative AI editing features that are coming soon, along with OpenAI. So
cool.
They're going to be able to plug those in. I've also used the RotoBrush, which is now, I believe, in version 3 in After Effects, and which is way easier to kind of select a subject than it was before. And it seems to be a lot smarter in tracking movement across the frame. So there is a lot of exciting tools when it comes to just the toolkit that we'll have and the things that can be sped up and be made easier.
So let's talk some flops and unicorns for AI tools. How do you measure the effectiveness of the AI tools that you're using in your video editing workflow? And what makes a tool work and what stops it from being as effective as it's intended to be?
I can actually give an example on this because I know, Ian, you touched on RotoBrush tool and After Effects, and that's something that I've had experience with, but I've chosen not to. So that's kind of one of the flops in my eyes. I know a lot of people have seen like success in the RotoBrush tool, but for me and the work that I would use with it, it actually wasn't as accurate, and I would have more issues than successes. So I would end up having to touch it up a lot because the AI wouldn't be as accurate.
It's kind of like a Tesla self-driving car where you just gave up control of the vehicle to Adobe and it's RotoBrushing without your assistance. And that's kind of the thing. We're trusting this to do the work for you, but it's not necessarily hitting the mark every time.
Let's move on to the jobs of human video editors and if they will be at all in jeopardy because of AI. I know this is something as video editors, we've all thought about this. We've all thought about whether we'll have jobs one day because of AI. So what are your thoughts on this?
I'm nervous, I'll be honest, because I see things like Autopod, it's like to help with jump cuts, and Audio Enhance to enhance audio. It seems like everything can be done with AI now, and there's an AI tool for pretty much every single aspect of video editing. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, how long is it going to be until it can basically edit a whole video and we won't know the difference? Because like there is AI generating stuff like Sora that it can generate a video, and a lot of us can't really tell the difference. It's honestly a little scary, but also impressive just to see how far it's come and how realistic it can look.
Yeah, I think with video editing, it's going to be kind of just a case of what kind of value you can bring to the table. I think as tools become commoditized, what value you bring becomes more important. So I think the craft, the artistry, and the theory and having a solid foundation behind what you do becomes even more important. I think owning your tools becomes more important. Never lose sight of what your passion was and why you started doing it. And I think there will always be a niche to fall into.
So I saw a LinkedIn post from someone that had gone viral. His name was Faison H, and he's a video editor. He said, "The future of video editing is not one of replacement, but collaboration. AI enhances efficiency, streamlines workflows, and assists in the technical aspects of editing. However, the heart of video editing, the creative vision, the storytelling process, and emotional connection remains firmly in the hands of a human editor. AI may be a tool, but it's the human touch that makes video editing an art form." So, it is definitely, I agree, it's scary to think about all these tools, but, I think a lot of these things are things that we could just use as editors to make ourselves better and not necessarily replace us as editors. Although, with Autopod and things like that, there definitely are types of videos that can be edited fully in AI. So,
yeah, I know one thing that I saw recently, it was how when it comes to creating art, it should primarily be used for inspiration, not to fully create art. Because now AI is at a point where it can't create an original concept. It can only pull from other artists. For me, that has been a big conviction when it comes to using AI. I'm like, okay, what is my point in using this? And being intentional is like what tools I use and make sure I don't rely on it. And it's like, okay, the heart of it is just like me as a creator, as an editor, as an artist.
How, if it can at all, could AI create new types of jobs within the video editing field? Do you see AI helping video editors in any way in the sense of creating new jobs? Or
I mean, when it comes to new jobs, I can think of one thing is like beta testers, people to test the tools, to figure out the bugs, to give it that human touch, essentially, to help to accentuate it and to make it better, and to eventually when it's actually released as like, oh, this is the full version, there is not as many bugs as when they first launched it.
Something is to be said about how machine learning and AI works is that it's trained and there has to be human input. You have this big beast of just all this data that's swimming in the matrix or whatever, but there needs to be something in the front that's telling it what, like a conductor that's telling it what to do.
So let's talk a little bit about AI generated music. This is obviously concerning from a legal perspective because it's just impossible for copyright rules to be enforced when songs are being generated by the millions. And so there's an AI music generating platform called Mubert, and on July 12th, 2023, so it's been almost a year, they announced that they had produced 100 million AI tracks. And what ethical considerations do you think video editors should be keeping in mind when incorporating AI into their work? Not even just specifically with music, that's just an example.
I think one thing is heavily the training data and material. A lot of this came probably from copyrighted sources. It probably came from samples, other things that trained this AI to create this new output. There's many ways to shake it up. There's only so many chord structures, but in the course of history, we've had hundreds of thousands and millions of songs. We don't want to be using things that to the end user just sounds bad. So I think there's going to be kind of a gap between just having good taste and selecting something. I think you're going to have to be authentic and have good taste to really still be able to reach people. But I think the market will kind of determine that on its own as people learn that using certain kinds of generative material may or may not produce as much reach as they want.
I heard some new things coming out now with Taylor
Oh
Swift's
my
new
gosh.
album. There's some people are claiming that she stole some songs from. And
I
it's
feel
just,
like there's so
you
much
never know.
content out there that it's almost impossible to be like, okay, who stole what? Like, because everyone's getting inspiration from everybody.
So we talked a lot about some platforms that generate AI videos, and a lot of these sort of take away from the creative side of the editor. And I know one example of this that we have used in Market Scale was Lumen 5. So with this, we're simply just generally using a template, music, color pattern, etc., all chosen by AI. And the editor simply puts everything together and just uploads and clicks render. So with that being said, I know we touched on this a little bit, but how can AI enhance the creative storytelling in video editing?
I think when it comes to programs that help template or pre-edit, I think one of the scariest things to me as a creative is kind of a blank canvas. And I think some of these tools really kickstart the creative process if you use them correctly. Sometimes having a very bare bones structure can be very helpful, or some kind of guide rail. I think the best creativity still has direction in it and isn't just a free for all. I think as long as you have structure and a foundation for creativity, it kind of leads you in the right direction for a better end result.
So we've talked about a couple of potential risks of over-reliance on AI in video editing, such as just the loss of creativity in general and copyright issues. But what other specific risks or potential issues do you guys see in the future, or do you see already happening when it comes to AI in the video editing world?
I think one of the things is just a backfiring of the market or the public or the audience who's seeing this content. There's a bit of an uncanny valley feeling where something is robotic but looks too real that we kind of cringe in our primal state in the way we perceive things. As this content floods the market, we'll be able to tell pretty quickly if it's authentic, if we want to connect with it in some way. Now, I think using it as a tool is one thing, but then using it as something that's just automatically generated, we can kind of see the difference right now. The market will decide ultimately if they like this or not. Again, with organic reach, SEO, the way people receive media online. But I'm super curious to see how that will play out.
It's hard to say because, it does get more intelligent and more complex almost every single day. There's always these new things coming out that are helping as far as video editing. But I think at the end of the day, it does boil down to AI being a tool as opposed to being the creator, because I think there always needs to be a creator behind it who is quality checking. There's always, little things like I know with Lumen 5, one of the issues we had was, the client might ask for rounded corners on the lower third. And it's like, well, we can't do that because this is a template that only allows for straight edge corners. And so there's just a lot of things that really they can't be done, or they can't be done to the way the client wants them without a human actually quality checking or, being behind the tools. So what do you think we as editors can be doing to prevent these things from happening, to prevent, a total AI takeover? What should us as
Not
editors
be so
doing?
reliant on the AI tools. Like, use it as kind of like a springboard in creativity.
When Photoshop first came out many years ago, a lot of people were scared that this was going to change the way photography worked, and it was going to kill the dark room and put people out of jobs. And film photography turned into digital, and then digital became easy. With those old tools like Photoshop, you still had to have the foundations of being able to mask, set exposure, hue, saturation values, other kinds of things, changing the paradigm in such a way that it does make me a little nervous in the fact that you can train these models to do what used to take an hour or two into 10 to 20 minutes. I just think it's a fundamental shift in the way we're going to perceive value. And I think that's where that authenticity and human connection and what value you can bring to the craft is going to be more important than ever. And also how you use the tools to get the job done. We went from, cave tools to, a DeWalt battery powered screwdriver that anyone can buy and start building. But the craft of building it's a skill, it's a trade. And I think there's still going to be a skill barrier in some of this stuff where you can tell the difference between what's been sloppily put together and what looks great.
Technology, I feel like, is becoming more and more along the lines of instant gratification. I think of like the internet and how like people would send snail mail. And then once the internet was introduced, oh my gosh, instant messaging. And then cell phones came out, text messaging. Oh my gosh, we can talk to people around the world. And now like AI is coming into the picture when it comes to in the creative field. It's like, oh my gosh, like something that would take an hour is now like 10 to 15 minutes maximum, or sometimes tools seconds. As technology increases, it's becoming more and more evident. This is like the world is losing patience. And as AI gets smarter and faster, people are going to start expecting results faster and faster. But at the same time, it's like, as long as we make sure like there's the human aspect of it and treat AI as what it's supposed to be, as a tool, instead of like, oh, this is the end all be all, like this is the answer to our problems, I feel like we should be fine.
So ever since the huge spike of AI, the topic has obviously been very controversial. There's some people that are completely against the entire idea of artificial intelligence. They want nothing to do with it. What are some of those common misconceptions you've noticed surrounding AI that drive these people to steer clear completely?
I think sometimes the media portrays AI as this thing that's going to solve all our problems. We're going to be able to find new medicines, and we're going to, change the world. I think there is some truth to that, but it's going to have to be driven a little bit. It's going to have to be guided. It's going to have to be prompted. We have to feed it that data. It doesn't quite work automatically together with everything yet, even though that is coming, where, it'll soon just be a big graph and be able to navigate. It's relieved the pressure of having to do very complex tasks that took a lot of space in our brains and speed it up. What used to take 1,000 humans 7 days will now be done in just pure minutes by one machine. And that kind of thing is what excites me and kind of scares me at the same time.
So let's shift gears a little bit. I know we've touched a little bit on Adobe Premiere's new generative AI tools that were just announced actually a few days ago. They're supposed to come out later in 2024. They have something called the Generative Extend, where if you cut your camera off too early, you need a few extra frames just to finish up your shot. Another announcement was removing objects completely. You can just brush right over an object in a video, removes it. Other than that, are there any things in the future regarding AI and video editing that you guys are excited for?
I see a lot of that stuff is going to change the perceived value of what some of those tasks used to be. I think object removal used to be very complicated and painted frame by frame, or you used to be able to use like the content aware fill and it would just see what's around it and fill it in, and it always looked really weird and smudgy. I think it's just a little crazy to see where it's going to go with just how fast it is and how easy it is. I think it's going to create a generation of aspiring filmmakers and just make it way easier for them to spec work and to be able to create kind of what's in their head. And that used to be impossible or take days to render. But now you'll have a whole generation of people that could just make it happen. I think it's great because now we can have a tool and help our clients out for what they want. But But yeah, as if I were an effects artist, I'd be a little concerned. But I like that Adobe is now taking this approach to make what used to be super hard easier.
Is there anything specific regarding AI or video editing you guys wanted to touch on at all?
Yeah, I would just encourage, I kind of already said this before, but just encourage everyone to focus on the value you can bring to your craft and your art. Be passionate about what you do, own your tools, and just be excited about what's coming and how you can harness those tools and prompt them correctly and use them in a way that'll benefit everyone.
We heard lots of great things today, and I'm so excited to continue to learn from different creators in episodes to come. Thank you so much for tuning in to our very first episode of Render Time presented by MarketScale.